Hey guys, it's Tom. So a while back I started doing a series called the 2015 Oscar Best Picture nominees. It's been a while, I had some computer problems, but with that said, we're back, so let's get right to it. Today's movie we're talking about is The Theory of Everything, starring Eddie Redmayne and Felicity Jones, and we have a really cool guest to talk about it. He's my friend, Drew Breedlove. Drew, thanks for being on here.
Thank you.
So, you and I had both seen The Theory of Everything. When this movie was first announced, how did you hear about this movie for the first time? Did you see a trailer? Did someone tell you about it? How did you first hear about The Theory of Everything?
Well, honestly, I really didn't hear about it until it was nominated for an Oscar, until he was nominated for Best Actor. Then I was like, that movie looks pretty good. So I decided to watch it with my family, and it was actually, it turned out to be a really good movie, and I loved it. I loved the movie.
I think how I came to this movie was I saw a trailer for it in the movie theater, and what I remember thinking at the time was, and this is kind of odd because at the time I thought, oh god, another biopic, because the year before, in 2013, there was a movie about Steve Jobs, starring Ashton Kutcher, and I didn't see that movie, but that bombed. Not a lot of people liked it. The critics kind of slammed it and everything. So to me, because that movie was in my mind at that time when this was announced, my first thought was, let's just reach in the barrel and see who else we can make a movie, because we failed so much with Steve Jobs. Stephen Hawking. Okay, yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Yeah. And also the trailer. But for Theory of Everything, knowing the trailer, do I remember him mentioning he was trying to find a theory for everything? So I thought, why the title? Why not call it Hawking or anything like that? So I was very confused when this movie came out. But then I saw it a couple weeks later, and just like you, I liked it right away. Now, one thing that I want to stress about this movie is that this is not strictly a Stephen Hawking biopic. It deals with, of course, how he had to battle the Lou Gehrig's disease, the motor neuron disease, and also Felicity Jones, who is counterpart to Eddie Redmayne, who plays his wife, Jane Hawking, how she had to struggle with all this stuff. And it kind of, to me, focuses more on their relationship as opposed to just him as a person. What do you think about the movie focusing on the relationship more than Stephen Hawking as a brilliant man?
Well, going into this movie, I actually expected a biography, like a lot of things, Stephen Hawking and a lot of things like, different bio movies and things like that. And when I talk to a lot of friends of mine, the reason they haven't seen it is because they're like, it's another bio movie. But when you actually watch the movie, you realize it's not so much a bio movie and, how he became big and everything. It was more of, his disease, how it evolved, how it really changed him and his relationship with his family. And it was a lot better than, just saying, hey, this is how I became big and things like that, with which you have with a lot of bio movies. Right.
It doesn't start with him as a baby and then growing up more and more and more. It starts. Yeah. They tell you in the movie it starts at Cambridge in '63, where he and Jane met for the first time. Yep. And how it blossomed from there. And what I really liked about it is, especially, there are a lot of scenes where Stephen is not actually in the movie. There are scenes with Jane and her mother, Jane and Jonathan, who we're going to get to talk about in a minute. So I liked that, Felicity Jones gets main credit as much as Eddie Redmayne in this movie, because I think she did an incredible job, don't you?
Yeah, fantastic. She got nominated.
She did. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So one thing that I alluded to earlier, we're talking about Jane meeting Jonathan, who is the conductor of the church choir that she later joins. How did you feel about, because I personally didn't know this, about the love triangle between the three? How did you think that was portrayed in this movie?
I thought it was portrayed really, really well. It definitely showed how, why she left him in the first place, because, she wasn't really happy with, constantly taking care of, and she really felt like, just kind of depressed all the time, having this husband, who can't love you back, and then all this other thing, having to constantly run and do stuff for him. And then once in the movie, he meets his therapist or whatever, he started flirting with her and everything. And, as a wife, I assume that's kind of heartbreaking to see your husband do that. And then whenever the church choir guy came, it was kind of like a net to catch her after all this, depressing stuff that happened to her. Yeah.
I almost looked at Jonathan as like a breath of fresh air for Jane, because here was a guy who came in, he was totally willing to help out with the family, and there was that great moment where Jane has just had their third child, and there's a lot of speculation as to who the father really is. And she says a great thing in the movie where she turns to her mother and she says something like "How dare you? There's no way that baby could be anybody but Stephen's." Mm-hmm. One thing that I want to talk about in this movie is that there really aren't a whole lot of spoilers, because it's like, spoil, Stephen Hawking became smart. Well, we already knew that. That's why they're making a film about him in the first place. As an actor yourself, can you see yourself in Eddie Redmayne's shoes having to sort of study all the different stages of motor neurons disease?
Well, that's part of the reason I really think he was definitely the, one of the few people that were nominated that exactly, should have won it, because that, it's so hard to imitate something like that when you don't have it. And the fact that he had to completely study, and then he had to, there were times where he had to make his body go through these certain stages, just like Stephen Hawking. And it was just the way he did it, and, it was just incredible the way he perceived everything, and he made it look both on camera and he even acted that same way off camera. And to me, that's pretty incredible, and that's definitely Oscar worthy.
I think, having to, because he actually spent time with Stephen himself, mm-hmm. and of course, Stephen Hawking, can't show him what it's like. So Eddie has to find other cases and have to think about, okay, at this day on set, which part of me isn't working anymore? Is it my feet, or is it my hands, or is my mouth only saying vowels now? And to me, having to do that every single day, to me, it's nothing short of incredible how Eddie Redmayne, because I assume there were some parts that were not shot in sequence, and to do that throughout the whole movie. And one other thing that I personally didn't know was, and I'm going to sound kind of dumb, I had no idea that Stephen Hawking was actually British. I had no idea.
Really?
Well, because you can't hear him speak anymore. Mm-hmm. So getting to see him as a person who actually is just like you and me, who moves around and chats to people, to me, it was just, you finish the movie, you have to rewind the movie at the very end and think, that's the same guy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So overall, final thoughts about the movie. I think this is one of those movies where if you didn't know much about Stephen Hawking besides the fact that he's a smart man, I think this movie really gives you an idea of what he has gone through. Stephen Hawking himself said that he felt that he was watching parts of his own life when he watched this movie. And I think anybody who watches this movie gets sort of a whole new respect for him, aside from his intelligence. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. You know what? I'm so glad that they didn't just focus on his career. In fact, they focused very little on his career and more of his family life and how the disease affected him. And that's part of the reason I love the movie so much. It's because it wasn't just like, it's how someone great became great. It was not one of those movies.
Because we already knew that.
Yeah.
We didn't know the behind the scenes of all the stuff that his family had to go through. So I guess the question to you, the fans, is what did you think of The Theory of Everything? Leave your answers down below in the comments. And check Drew out. Hit him up on Twitter. He's a working actor. And Drew, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. And I assume there were parts of the movie. Excuse me. Don't hang up. See if it's not anything important.
We can edit that out.